Hi guys, this is Junaid here from K21 Academy and I welcome you all to this session where we're going to take a look into an end-to-end implementation of Power BI. In short, this is going to be a Power BI crash course. So without any further ado, let me quickly get started with today's agenda. First off, what we're going to do is we're going to see a quick introduction to visualization where we're going to see what is visualization and why do we need it. Moving ahead, we'll have a look into types of visualization tools that are available in the market and some of the popular choices that we have. Finally, we dive into our most powerful, or let's say one of the most widely used business intelligence tools by Microsoft, that is Power BI. Finally, we'll see how Power BI is being implemented in the industry. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the Power BI desktop and see how Power BI can be used in a step-by-step fashion, all the way from loading the data to data cleaning, data pre-processing, and then how we can visualize the data in real time. Alright then guys, so let's get now started with the first topic, that is introduction to visualization, right? So when you think of visualization, what do you think? Like, what is visualization, right? Like, what exactly it is? Well, if I give you an example, let's say you're trying to understand a mathematical equation. If you try to just remember the equation, let's say y is equal to mx plus c, we all know that is the equation of a line. If you just think of equation of a line, it gets pretty hard for us to understand that, right? It becomes really hard to interpret it. So what happens with visualization is, if I draw a line, if I say, if you put this so-and-so value of a slope and the intercept, this is how the line gets formed, right? So this is what is visualization. So when we can visualize something, when we can see something in real world, our mind is capable of interpreting it. So this is why we need visualization, to better understand the world, to better understand the numbers. So this is why we need visualization. So if this is visualization, then what exactly does visualization means? So in short, visualization is any technique for creating images, diagram, or animation to communicate a message. Let's say you want to say something about a tax system. You just put in the numbers, you have the values of the tax. And this can be expressed in terms of bar plots, histogram, pie graph. You have many other options available there. So now that we know what is visualization, let's now move ahead and see the types of visualization tools that are available in the market. Okay, so we have various visualization tools that are available in the market. First off, we have Power BI, then we have another popular one, Tableau, Plotly. Plotly basically you use with Python, like especially Plotly and Seaborn, Matplotlib. All these tools you kind of use it with Python. Microsoft Excel is something that you kind of use, like let's say if you're good with Excel, right? You can put your Excel values into a graph so that you can see. Apart from that, all of these like Seaborn, Plotly, all of these are in the form of an Excel sheet or in the form of rows and columns. Another thing that is coming up now with the advancement of cloud, we have something like Zoho Analytics or IBM Congo Analytics, and we have various other tools wherein we can, this is a cloud-based system wherein you can put whatever the size of your data is, everything gets automated and you have the results on the spot. So out of all of this, right, so we'll be speaking about one powerful business intelligence tool, that is Power BI. So what is a Power BI? As I mentioned earlier, Power BI is a business tool or business intelligence tool which is developed and built by Microsoft. It is something which is freely available. All you need to do is go down to the Microsoft Store, put on Power BI Desktop, and you have this. With this, we can, you have integration with programming languages like R and Python, where you just have to write your queries and the visualization is on path over here. Apart from that, with Power BI, we can integrate this with, let's say, real-time projects, thus making, various industry applications to be in a simple manner. So let's see some of the top features of Power BI. Okay, the first one is interactive Power BI desktop. You will see when we move down to the part where we are gonna implement Power BI, right? You will see that desktop is interactive. What this means is if you change one particular value, the neighboring values changes. Okay. And then the other option that we have, or the other feature we have, is customized visuals. So what this means is, although you have various visualizations, you can customize it. Let's say color, size, shape, whatever you want. It's it has so many possibilities that it would take me an entire day to explain all of them. Then apart from that, we have visibility. As Power BI provides me with interactive desktop and visualization tools, I can arrange my, like, let's say, different charts in the order that the way I want. Then apart from that, we have robust security. See, if you are someone, let's say you're trying to design a particular tender, or let's say a particular business plan for something, and you obviously want to have it safe and sound, right? So with Microsoft, who is a big tech giant since so many years, it provides you with a robust security which would keep your data set safe. Apart from that, easy implementation of process. Here, the Power BI, all we try to do is use widgets, right? So all you have to do is drag and drop, and automatically, all your data gets processed, and you can visualize your data efficiently and effectively. Finally, the organize. It's like organize and accessible data. So if you're someone who wants to practice on Power BI, or if you are someone who's looking forward for free data set, Power BI is your go. Power BI provides you with so many let's say pre-processed data set. All you need to do is just go down to the data set option, and or you can just download it from there. So let's now quickly see how Power BI is being used in the industry. First off, Power BI is efficiently used in supply chain. If you guys don't know what is supply chain, it's basically like trying to meet up the demand of a product. We form out different let's say patterns which would allow us to make sure all the supplies, let's say from manufacturing to the raw materials to the is done all the way from the industry, or let's say from the manufacturing unit to the customers. Okay, apart from that, this is used in continuous development of products, or to forecast what kind of how the product would behave after a certain amount of time, and this would definitely help in understanding the market and all of that. So now that we have a brief understanding of what is Power BI and why we need it, let me now quickly jump to my Power BI desktop and show you how we can load the data, and then how we can perform various operations on Power BI. Alright guys, so let me quickly jump to my Power BI desktop here. Okay, so as you can see, if you open up Power BI desktop, it looks something like this. If you have not loaded your dataset, right? So the first thing that we're gonna do is we gotta import the data. So there are a couple of ways. You can either click here, you'll see if you have any Excel workbook, you can just download it from there. If you have any database, you can definitely get your this thing from there. We will have a couple of database built in, and apart from that, you can also get your database from the web. Now here we have a database in the Excel format, which looks something like this. I know this is pretty huge, and it does look overwhelming, right? So for this database, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna import this over here. We give all files. Okay, so as you can see here, we have successfully imported the database. Now you have two options here. Either you can cancel, or you can load the data. Now in that loading the data, you have two options. Again, you have load the data or transform the data. So now, as you can see here, if you are kind of aware of like how to do with data pre-processing, you cannot have these NaN values. And apart from that, there are certain data sets that you really don't need, right? So some missing values. So what we'll do here is, instead of directly loading the data set, let's transform it, right? So let me transform the data set. And when I hit transform dataset, it opens up a new window for me, which is quite different from our Power BI desktop. All right. So as you can see, we have two datasets. Let me quickly open this one as well. So this is something totally different from this one here. So this has a column 1, column 2, column 3, but I don't need this. I don't want this thing to be my column, right? I want this one, a WEO country code, ISO, and all the other attributes that I have here. I want that thing to be my column name. So if you want to change, or if you want to make this your column name, it's pretty simple. Alright, so what you do is you select the first column, and then you have this option here wherein you use first row as your header. Use first row as headers. So let me copy this. Now you'll see from column, now the values have changed from columns to the respective column names, right? So let me just show you this here as well. So as you can see, we have changed the column names here. Now apart from that, you might have noticed something, right? We have NA basically refers to the missing data. So we have a couple of columns that has no data at all. Like let's say 1890 or 1980, we have no data. And we have this for almost majority of our data set. I guess it is that till 2000 or 2001 here. So what we'll do, we'll try to select these columns. You can press Control, select the multiple columns. Let me slide this as well. Let me select multiple ones. Okay, and even in 2002, I can see we have, although we have data, but most of the data set is missing. So I'll just ignore this. So this is done. Now all you need to do is remove columns, right? So just remove columns. So this is how we transform our data set. As you can see, now we don't have that amount of data, like the missing values which are there. Alright, so I guess we missed this thing as well. We don't have data available for 2021, 2022, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I guess the last column. Okay, it should be fine here. So now let's remove these rows or columns. Okay, this looks perfect. See, apart from this, there are a couple of, this was a removal of unnecessary data, or let's say the missing data. Apart from this, if you can see here, when you're trying to plot this, right, so we won't be needing the units or the currency, okay? And then name of the country is important, but this thing doesn't make a difference. So let me quite remove this, because country code, ISO, all of these refers to the same thing. So let me quite remove this and remove columns. Okay, so now that we are totally done with this, okay, so now what we'll do here is we will try to we have to make all of these data points into a decimal ones. Okay, so let's kind of quickly do that. Let me convert all of these into a decimal number. So first off, if you can see here, we have this is what this thing includes. So we don't want this, so make sure you select this, unselect the null, okay, and then you press OK. So all the null values are now eliminated. As you can see, now we have no missing data present here. Okay, and apart from that, if you click on this, let's see if you have anything that's missing here. Yeah, so make sure you remove NA again. So this is something that you have to do for all the columns here. I guess the easiest way for this is basically either you can write a query here that works absolutely fine, or you can just scroll down and see which data you need and which data you don't need. So this is fine. Let me do this. This is going to take quite some time. So let's see here. Alright guys, so as you can see, I have been through all of these columns and I tried eliminating all the nan values, missing values, or the values that were not meant to be here. Okay, and now another thing that I'm gonna do here is, as you can see, we have multiple columns here, like from 2004, 5, 6, and then we also have all the way till 2020, right? So I'm gonna try merging this into just one column, right? So let me show you how I can do that. So I'll just select these columns here. So to select, make sure you have control and then click on the columns that you want to select. Let me scroll this way here a bit. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, if you can go down to this transform, and you will see here something called as unpivot columns. So if I click on this, you will see now that we just have now this feature. Okay, so we just have the numbers here and the values. So this attribute here is basically the year, and this is GDP of that year. Okay, we can basically rename this as year, and this thing would be GDP. Okay, so now you might be wondering, what have I done here? All I've tried to do here is, we had this various columns, right? So I reduce the dimensionality, I reduce that number of columns into more number of rows. Okay, so this, like, let's say all of these years were in a different columns. All I did was just make sure to convert or converge them into one row, okay, or one column, but we increase the number of rows. So if you can see earlier that we had just a couple of Afghanistan, but now we have a lot of Afghanistan values present over here, and this is very few ones that we are trying to show over here. Okay, so now that we are done with this, now we have to bring this data to this Power BI desktop here. So to do that, all we need to do is close and apply. And once I hit close and apply, you will see that this data would come down here. So this will take quite some time to load the data, so just be patient. Alright, so as you guys can see here, we have nothing that's present here, right? So we have some visualization tabs, and then we have something called filters, and then we have field. But if you see here on the right hand side, we have something called as IMF. And this over here are the various categories, if you remember, we had, right? So if you want to see this, right, so before we load our data, before we start using, let's go down to this part. On the left side, you can see data here. And now what we'll do is we'll try to categorize each of these values. Okay, so if I click on these, you'll see that it says uncategorized. So we'll convert this country, we'll convert this into country. Make sure you don't select city or county, it's gonna be country here. Okay, this is the year part, so let's make this year if we have that. Okay, so it looks like we don't have that option, and this is anyways gonna be a numerical one. Okay, so now that we are done, let me just save this by clicking this here, and then we'll come back now. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do is get on with the visualization, right? So if you imagine, or if you remember, when I was speaking in our presentation, I told here we get a live view, and Power BI basically tend to use something called as drag and drop. So if I want to use this column chart, all I'm going to do is drag and drop, so or just click it. So you get visuals over here. You can drag, you can place it wherever you want. You can expand the size, basically you can do whatever you want. So now that we are done with this, you can see we are not having any we don't have any values. So this thing is just a blank one. So if you want to add some values, we can add this over here. So if you can see axes, legend, values, and all that. So we'll take a GDP, okay, and we'll add GDP to the values. So let's see what happens. Now you can see we just have one single value. So obviously we cannot make anything out of this. So we'll take axes, and we'll take axes for the year. And now you will see that the values have changed. Okay, but still this is like on a global level, what was the GDP. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make use of a legend, add legend as a country here. So now you'll see that what are the, what is the GDP with respect to the years. But still, this becomes really hard for us to visualize because we have a lot of countries here. So if you want to change this, if you want to change the number of countries, you can come down to this filter part here. So you can do some filtering by having, just by selecting some values here. Let's say country, you can see it has all. You can, instead of basic filtering, you can choose top n. And with top n, let's give top 5 and then hit enter. And even here, let's select certain years. Let's say just last 3 years, and that should be it. If you want this, we can, instead of all, we can have basic filtering and just select top 5. Okay, so as you can see here, we have successfully done this. The blue here stands for Afghanistan, then we have Algeria, and then we have Angola and various other countries. You can also implement this for the top n. Okay, just make sure to put top, like whichever countries that you need, and then you have apply filter. Gotta add GDP here and then apply filter. So yeah, so the top 10 countries here would be shown. If you want this to be top 5, let's apply your filter. You'll see here that the value changes. Now if you want to have this for all the countries, you have an option here, but if you want to select the top 5 or top 10, then you still have the option for that. Now one more thing that I like about Power BI is, now I have this feature, right? So I have this. Now if you remember, we selected this particular column as country, right? So you saw me coming back to this part here, and then I changed this to country. I'll show you why I did that. So now let me select this graph, and if I just click on this globe here, map, now you see this is the best part that I love about Power BI. So as you can see here, this thing gives me a chart where it tells me about the various GDPs, right? And now if I as you can see, I don't need this. I just remove this part here. So as you can see, now I get this. Apart from that, okay, let's say we take, instead of top 10, we select all the values, right? Select all. So as you can see, we do get the GDPs, but we have a lot of bubbles. So if you want, you can zoom in here and you can see the values, right? So this is as simple as it can get. You can increase this a bit, and apart from that, we can just unselect all, just add a couple of them that we need. So the larger the size of the bubble here, it shows that the GDP is higher and vice versa. Okay, and apart from this, if you want to add, you can add a legend here. You can add latitude, longitude. It's totally up to you. And yeah, alright, so this is how you can use Power BI, and this is just the very beginning. So moving further, let's try to implement some other graphs which would help you understand more in depth about how you deal with Power BI. Alright guys, so a couple of things that I would like to mention over here for you guys is this field. No matter I go for which section I go, let's say be it for this part where I'm trying to visualize the data, or if I'm trying to let's say here see how data is distributed, you can see here we have this fields available, and the field is also available for this. This thing is basically used when you have multiple tables. If you have ever worked with SQLs, SQL or SQL databases, you'd know if you have multiple tables, if you would like to link your table, you have foreign key and all of that. So basically you would be using this, and if you have multiple tables, you can just use this to link one another and form a joint or that. So apart from that, another thing is based on the type of operation that you're trying to perform, your the task over here or the menu bar changes. So let's say if I click on IMF, you'll see here I just get this, and if I click on country, anything specific, you can see here that the value just changes up, right? So if I can see here, now this country gets some other value. If I put this, or if I put this even over here, so this thing runs text. Let me convert this into a number, decimal number, right? Change the data type, yes. And this one, okay. Okay, so this is what you can do. You can actually change it to the whole number. Let's see what happens now. So this is actually throwing us an error. The thing is, this step was something which is supposed to be done earlier. Let's say when we're trying to load this data, right? So we had this particular step. So this is where it was supposed to be done, but it's okay. Again, this thing again here is gonna be, we're gonna change this from the string. Right now it's in a text format. So let's see if it is what it does. Oh yeah, it did convert this into a decimal number. Okay, so this is how this thing works. One more thing is, if you come down here, again you can see here we have various options. We can format or delete or fill the data, and then again if you see here, when you come down to modeling, you can add up various queries, which totally goes in. The thing that I like about this is the snip to grid. Then you also have guidelines, like we can have multiple graphs here. Okay, and let's say if I have this and then I have a pie graph here, and then you try to add some data. So as you can see, we just did something now, right? So I can have multiple graphs. So this can represent something, let's say this graph here, and then I try to add one more visuals wherein I'm trying to have this donut graph, and I need one more graph which represents this value here. The country. So now you might be wondering, I have this value 0 here, right? So the reason for that is because we have the reason for this is because this field is in a textual format. So what I'm gonna do now is, let me quickly see if I can fix this up for you guys. Alright guys, so as you can see here, the values are appearing now. There was a small glitch. The reason for that is because as we have around 6,000 records, it does take time for this thing to load up. So that's why it was showing 0 initially, and now it shows the correct set of numbers. So coming back to this, so we have grids, and apart from that, sometimes you might also be working on your iPad or your laptops or mobile phones. It also provides you with a mobile layout. You can also change this into different themes, just like how it goes with Word. So as you can see here, this is the theme, how it goes. You can also choose some black theme. You can change the color of this graphs like this. Let's say you don't want to see the grids. So as you can see, this gives you a pretty sleek movement. Now coming to this graph, let's say you want to add some more details. You can just go with categories equal to on. So you can see here, it gives you the name of the countries that the bubble represents. Okay, so apart from this, finally, if you want to save this, you can just save it as over here, and you can just give a file, and this would just end up saying you in Power BI file, that is .bxi file. So let me just give here as report, and then just hit save. Okay, so this will take a couple of minutes. Once that's done, your report is ready. And next time, if you have to load your report, all you need to do is just hit open, and this would just work. So you can see here, this is the one that we created now. So this would just give me the report which is present over here. So as you can see here, this will just give us the same thing. Let's give some more time for this to load and let's see what happens. Alright guys, this was it about a small introduction to Power BI. So this was, you can consider it as a crash course where we saw how we can load the data, how we can transform the data, how we can use the graphs, how we can make use of the various attributes which are present in the graphs. Okay, so before I end this session, I would like to invite you to take part in our Microsoft Data Analytics Certification demo session. This is a free session where we are gonna give you a brief walkthrough about how our paid courses would look like, and this is absolutely free. Okay, so here you'll also have an option to ask questions with our expert trainers, where like anything that you want to ask about, be it a career perspective or be it something that you want to know out of language, the knowledge that you want to have. And apart from that, let's say this is something that you're trying to have a career change, you can definitely I would definitely invite you to this free class. To have access to this free class, it's pretty simple. All you need to do is go down to this website, K21Academy.com/DA10002. Okay, so let me quickly repeat that again for you guys. K21Academy.com DA10002. Alright guys, with this we come to the end of our session. I hope you guys enjoyed and had something new to learn. Until next time, goodbye and take care.